Good evening and welcome to Black Talk Radio News with Scotty Reed. I'm in for another broadcast. Hope it's informative. I hope the right people hear these podcasts and broadcasts that we do, and that those people are in a position to take action. And we see that happening a lot with social media. And we have another one of those cases, interesting case that was sent to me by email I was made aware of, and that is Marissa Alexander in the same state of Florida as George Zimmerman. I had an opportunity to interview her first husband, I should say, because there's another husband involved. So to clear that up, the ex-husband that is accused of abusing her and she was standing her ground, that is not the one we interviewed. No, we interviewed her first husband, Lincoln Alexander Jr., and I will play that interview for you in just a moment. I do want to remind you that Black Talk Radio News is now undergoing a new schedule change. So for those that was tuning in at 8 o'clock, perhaps you saw the YouTube videos to make time more efficient or make more efficient use of time. We decided to move the program up to 10 o'clock, or back, I should say, to 10 o'clock p.m. So still Monday through Friday, but at 10 o'clock p.m. Also, we have a new phone number. That new phone number is posted for you, but we do not take calls during the interviews. But after the interviews, if you'd like to comment on something or ask a question, I'll do my best to answer it. But hold all your calls until the live portion of the program. And I guess we'll just go ahead and get into this story about Marissa Alexander out of Florida. They can't move a crowd, not even slightly. It might be the fact that they express whackness. We are talking to Lincoln Alexander Jr. today about his ex-wife, Marissa Alexander, who is awaiting sentencing for 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon with no intent to harm and child abuse for firing a warning shot into the ceiling. She was properly licensed to carry a weapon. Welcome to Black Talk Radio News, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you for having me and allowing us to introduce this case to the public.
I also want to thank Nancy Lockhart for sending me this story and feeling like it's something that, we should report on, because this case, as you know, Mr. Alexander, stand your ground laws, especially in Florida, and this is where Miss Alexander is in Florida. And with the stand your ground laws and the Trayvon Martin, story out there, a lot of these cases are popping up. But I think it's just interesting, your ex-wife's case in this same state with these stand your ground laws. And what I'm finding is that, these prosecutors are selectively, choosing which cases they will, give immunity to, understand your ground, and then those that they will prosecute. So I guess the first thing to do, to get started, can you first tell us who you are and what your relationship to Marissa Alexander is?
Okay, not a problem. I'm her first husband. We were married for 7 years. So at this point, I've known her for 13 years now. And even though our marriage ended, our friendship was still very good, because we knew we had 2 kids to continue to raise. So our bond and our friendship is still very strong. I still care a lot about her. So I'm doing whatever I can to help her through this injustice.
Now, your ex-wife remarried, and it seems that was a problem marriage, and it eventually led up to the situation that she finds herself in. Now, can you tell us a little bit about that marriage, as much as you know about it, that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, I can tell you about that particular marriage, the relationship. it was the typical battered woman type of syndrome, relationship where you're on and off again. You have people. She had people like me and her family trying to talk her out of the relationship, but there was just a deeper theme that we truly didn't understand. There was 5 domestic violence incidents that have been talked about during the case trial, and even some of the documents that I've uploaded online, people would be able to read exactly what her alleged victim said in his deposition. And I have also uploaded the motion for immunity using Stand Your Ground, which was, as we all know, denied at this point. They were married actually in 2010, on May 14th of 2010. So before the actual incident, they weren't actually married for a long period of time, but their relationship had been going on for a lot longer than that. They started a relationship back in 2008, the end of 2008. So they had been living together throughout that entire time, but they decided to get married in 2010 before the incident actually occurred.
Now, you mentioned several instances of domestic violence. I think we should be clear on who was the aggressor in those incidents and were they documented?
Only one particular incident was documented that I know for sure, and that was a tough night for me personally and my kids. I will say this, a lot of the domestic violence incidents that have occurred between the two of them, my kids were never around whenever those incidents happened.
Okay.
But on this one particular night, my kids were there to witness what happened to their mother. And essentially, my daughter was the one that actually called the police and had him arrested. So that is one of the documented cases where he was actually charged with something, but I think he pled no contest or whatever it was. So he essentially got out. A couple of weeks later, he did what he normally does, cry and just talk about trying to change and do whatever he could to get back in her good graces. And eventually, because of the love that she had for him, she allowed him to get back into her life.
In reading some of the material, and I do want to tell the listeners that the website that he is referring to where he has uploaded these documents is justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. You spell her name Marissa. That's justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. I want to back up. Now, the other instances you said were undocumented, meaning the police did not get involved, but had she spoken to you or any other family members about other instances of domestic violence?
She did talk about some of the incidents.
Okay.
We didn't know about all of the incidents. Some of us, I'll say for sure, I knew of 3 particular instances. Her mom or her sister may have known about a particular incident. She never wanted us to really worry about her, so she did her best to keep what was going on with her to herself and try to stay away from the family. She wasn't able to stay away from me as much because we have shared custody of our kids. So I saw her and talked with her on a weekly basis. I should also mention Marissa was getting help and talking with experts, I guess, at the Hubbard House or whoever. So
when you say seek help for protection or being able to deal rationally with the violence that she was experiencing?
Both, actually. She did have an order of protection put in place in 2009. I think it was September of 2009, which was right after the incident when he was arrested. So she had an order of protection against that particular person, and it was active the day he attacked her when she fired her or discharged her firearm in the house. One thing that I've learned by putting all of this information out there is that one of the things that battered women learn or are told is to not be trapped into closed spaces where you have no way out or there's only one exit. And that was part of the problem that she was trying to avoid. When people start to read the story and read the information, we're not trying to hide anything. Questions that have come up about, well, why didn't she stay in the garage, or the attack actually happened in the bathroom. When you have no way out, then your best option is to get into an area where you have two possible escape routes.
Okay.
Another thing that I was told, when people are ready to leave an abusive relationship, things will get worse because the abuser notices that he is starting to lose control and he doesn't have that control over the person anymore. And that is exactly the case that happened. Her alleged victim even admitted that in his deposition that things got worse over time.
Before we get to the exact incident that she was charged with, as I was reading over justiceformarissa.blogspot.com, I noticed that she was hospitalized at one time. Was this due to domestic violence at his hands?
Yes, it is due to domestic violence at his hands. That is the incident I mentioned earlier where my daughter called the police on that particular night, and she had passed out in the garage. Her attacker had fled the scene, didn't try to help her, walked right past her, got his kids, and left the premises. But because my daughter called the police, the police picked him up a couple of miles away from the house.
And what kind of injuries did she sustain that she needed hospitalization?
She had pain in her neck and her back. The injuries that she sustained, she had a contusion on her head. She had bruises on her arms, her neck, and her leg.
And this was all documented?
Yes, that is all documented. There were pictures taken as well.
I guess my next question would be, well, can you describe for the listeners what happened in detail to Marissa the night that she would find herself facing these charges?
Okay. She, when her husband came home that particular morning, Marissa had what... let me back up for a second here. They have a newborn baby, and the baby was born premature. Now, why the baby was born premature, that's debatable. We would, as a family, believe one thing, but I won't say anything that can't be documented or proved.
But she was pregnant the night she was hospitalized, right?
She was attacked at one time when she was pregnant, and that I did testify to that particular incident. He beat her, gave her a black eye while she was pregnant. I don't know for sure how many months she was at that point, but that was talked about in court and documented in the transcripts. But as far as the actual day the incident occurred, Marissa was at the hospital the night before, giving their baby his first bath, but her husband wasn't able to be there for I'm not sure what reason. I'm not sure if it was because he was working or whatever, but that's beside the point. He wasn't able to be there. She took pictures to share with him. That morning when he came home, she showed him the pictures and told him about it because she was really excited for that opportunity, because with a baby born premature in the NICU, that is a scary time. I will admit that. We've been through that as parents because our two kids are twins. They were born premature as well. They were in the hospital for a long time. So this was another time in her life where it's scary, but it's exciting to see progress when your baby is moving forward and not having as many complications. She shared the pictures with him, and she had to use the bathroom because she left him with her phone. He continued to look at the pictures and then decided to start looking at her text messages. Based on her text messages saying that she was going to leave him and leave the marriage, that made him really upset. Now, I will admit the text messages were to me as her ex-husband because I offered her shelter to move in here to my house because I wanted her to be safe. We have no relationship outside of a friendship. That is something that the prosecution tried to bring up, but going through her text messages, her phones, there was nothing that they could prove or determine to say our relationship was more than a friendship.
Okay.
So
which I think is beside the point, considering she was in a violent relationship. And so I think it's besides the point that you're her ex-husband.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I clarify that when people read the information and see text messages to her ex-husband, I want to make sure that I put the right information out there and let them know, yes, I did offer her shelter, and I had no problem with that because I travel for a living for work. So I am not here at my house 4 or 5 days out of the week. So there wouldn't have been any issue with her staying here and bringing a newborn baby to this house. Now, once he saw those text messages, he didn't read all of them. He just read a couple to determine that she was truly moving on and leaving the marriage. That made him really upset and tried to attack her in the bathroom. Because she was in the bathroom with the door shut, the only way to open the door is inward. She had the door locked. He busted through the door and hit her in the leg because of where she was sitting on the toilet. And this is also documented in his deposition. He didn't allow her to leave the bathroom as they continued to argue at one another, with him confronting her about the text messages. He says that he used his body to prevent her from leaving, but what that actually meant was he he used his arms and his upper body. I'm saying exactly what he said in his deposition. He used all of his upper body to prevent her from leaving the bathroom. But with her fighting him and trying to get by, she was able to get out of the bathroom. Now, something that people have asked, why didn't she call the police? He had her phone and he threw it at her. So she never had her phone to try to call police. They continued to argue as she was able to get by him. His two sons that were there, they saw what was going on, and he did what he normally does. He tries to look innocent in front of his kids. So he threw his hands up in the air to show his kids that he's not beating on her. She was able to walk towards the garage because she wanted to leave the house. I can testify to this. She normally leaves her purse and the keys to her vehicle in her truck. Her truck, it has a smart key, so you don't have to turn a key. You just leave a key fob in the vehicle. When she got to the garage didn't open. So she retrieved her gun from the glove compartment. Now let me step back and say she was telling him to leave the house the entire time they were in the bathroom arguing back and forth. Her abuser said to his kids, "We're leaving." So to her knowledge, she thought that they had actually walked toward the front door or out of the front door. When she walked back into the house, because the garage door wouldn't open, with her gun in her hand, he confronted her and told her that if he can't have her, nobody would, and I will kill you. These are all statements that he had made in his deposition as well.
So he admitted in his deposition that he threatened her life.
Yes, he did. He threatened her multiple times in the bathroom, and when he approached her towards the kitchen. So there were multiple times that he had threatened her to do bodily harm towards her. She felt she had no choice but to discharge the firearm. Because, I mentioned this earlier, because of the love that she had for him, she didn't want to hurt him. She did love him, but she knew that the best thing for her was to leave the marriage, leave the relationship. One more thing to note, I shouldn't say one more thing, but another thing to note, she was already moving on from the relationship because she was living with her mom for a couple of months at that point. I think it was about 2 months she was living with her mom. The doctors at the hospital had told her she needed to reduce her stress level. So she moved in with her mom to reduce the stress level. But at that particular time, she told me she went to the house because she needed to get some more clothes. That was the only reason she had went back to the house. It's because she needed to get more clothes. Little did she know that this incident would occur. She had already moved out a lot of the baby things that were purchased for their new baby. So the only thing pretty much remaining was the furniture and her clothes. So after the discharge of the firearm, that's when her attacker said that him and his kids left out through the front door.
And I'm reading a statement. I'm sorry. I'm reading, a statement on the website, and it says outside of the home, he contacted the police and falsely reported that she shot at him and his sons.
Yes, that's what he stated at that time.
At that time,
and
okay.
Yeah, at that time in his deposition, he said something different. When we listened to the 911 tape during the trial, a key word was said that I'm not sure if everyone even paid attention to this. When he called the police, he said, "I'm so pissed." He didn't say I was scared or I was in fear. He just said, "I'm so pissed." Now, when people read his deposition, they will also see he made statements because he made the statements that he made because he was angry with her. And up until a few weeks before giving that deposition, he was still angry with her. So him reporting that she shot at him and his sons was a false statement that he later changed his story in the deposition. By talking with Marissa and her reading the deposition, he still didn't tell the entire truth, but he did somewhat tell a more accurate depiction of what happened on that day. But at no point did she point the gun at him or his kids, and that was also another thing that was corroborated by one of his sons during the testimony of the trial. One of his sons said that she never pointed the gun at us. We weren't in a position to even see the gun. So one of his sons even corroborated what Marissa had stated before she was even arrested. Now, when she was arrested, this is in her police report, the police documented that she told them she was in fear of her life. She also told them that there was an order of protection or a restraining order, as some people know it as, against domestic abuse. They documented that as well and included the information about the order of protection in the arrest report. But they still arrested her anyway. From what we have learned in the past, and even with other cases that have happened in Jacksonville, the police make the determination at that time whether or not someone will be arrested. Once they made that determination that they were going to arrest her based off of the false report, things went downhill for her at that point, and it's been difficult trying to prove that she actually was justified in standing her ground.
Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
Tanya Free. George Zimmerman has been charged with second-degree murder, a criminal act demonstrating a depraved mind and disregard for human life, and the death of Trayvon Martin. Zimmerman has claimed self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, which has been labeled by some as the license to murder statute. What do you think are the chances that Zimmerman will be convicted of second-degree murder? Go to TanyaFree.com to respond to this week's Question of the Week.
That's TanyaFree.com.
Graphics and audio services. Vast prices, vast production. Vast prices, vast production.
BP Graphics and Audio Services for the best in graphic design and custom audio creations. Make your next project shine on a professional level with BP. Brilliant people creating beautiful presentations to help your business prosper and increase your bargaining power, resulting in bigger paychecks.
Vast prices, vast production.
Call us now.
937-736-0096.
BP Graphics and Audio Services.
And we're back. You're listening to Black Talk Radio News with Scotty Reed, and my guest is Lincoln Alexander Jr. But before we get back to the interview, we would like to remind you that Black Talk Radio News is listener supported. You can make a donation to this program and to the Black Talk Radio Network General Fund via any PayPal link on the website. If you would like to mail a check or a money order, you can make that out to Black Talk Media Project, Post Office Box 65, Mount Holly, North Carolina, 28120. There's some bullet points here that I think is worth mentioning. The alleged victim, under sworn statement in November 2010, admitted he was the aggressor, threatened my life, and was so enraged he didn't know what he would do. Did he testify to that or give it a deposition stating this?
Yes, that he said that in a deposition that is documented. And I also have that uploaded on justiceformarissa.blogspot.com.
Let's see. You've already covered. She told the officer that she was in fear for her life, and so, but that's corroborated by what he testified to. He did threaten her life. Let's see. In July 2011, a hearing was held where she and the alleged victims testified as it relates to the Stand Your Ground law and its immunity from prosecution. So, at that point, what did they have a hearing and determine that she would not be granted immunity? I mean, how does that work?
Yes, we have what we would call a stand your ground motion hearing.
Okay.
Testimony was given from multiple people. His family, I say his family, the alleged victim family, Marissa family, Marissa as well as the defendant, and all of the alleged victims. After that testimony, and of course with lawyers doing what lawyers do to bring in additional information that had nothing to do with that date in question, her immunity claim, the Stand Your Ground, that was denied.
And that was denied by, was it Judge Elizabeth Centerfit?
That's correct.
Citing, and I'm noting here, it says that the judge cited that she could have exited the house through the master bedroom window, front door, and or sliding glass back door, but the law specifically states there's no duty to retreat. And I think that's really been pointed out many times in the Trayvon Martin case, and people saying Zimmerman had, he didn't have any duty to retreat.
Right. In her denial motion, response that was sent to our lawyer, she didn't specifically put down retreat through a window, but she did put down retreat through the front door or a back door.
And again, the law says what?
No duty to retreat. And that is something that, of course, is documented based on Florida Law 776.012, use of force in defense of a person. A person is justified in using force, except deadly force, against another when and to the extent that the person reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to defend himself or herself against other imminent use of unlawful force. That is what she did. She didn't want to use lethal force. That just at that time she didn't want to kill anybody. I know her personally, of course.
Well, if she wanted to kill someone, then they wouldn't be alive today.
Right. That was not her intent. Her intent was, okay, I'm scared. I'm gonna fire this weapon so that I scare you off away from me. Don't hit me anymore. That was her intent.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Let me ask you this question. I'm not sure I understand the laws in Florida because, and maybe this is a typo or something, but right now she's awaiting sentencing for 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon is this correct? No intent to harm?
That is correct. That is let me rephrase that. Once I looked it up, again, at one point, the documents actually said with no intent to harm. When I looked up the official charge, it says with no intent to kill. So I will put that out there. Some of the documents, or one of the documents, officially said with no intent to harm, but when you look up the official charge, it says with no intent to kill. The reason why there's 3 counts is because the alleged victim said that she discharged her gun at him and his kids.
Okay. And as you've already noted, one of his sons testified that she did not point the weapon at them.
And he also pointed that out as well in his deposition.
So that's in direct contradiction to what he initially told police with his initial report.
Yes, that's true. That is very true.
Now, Angela Corey, she's making a lot of headlines as she was appointed special prosecutor in Trayvon Martin's case. From what I've read, a lot of people take issue with her as a prosecutor, but that's neither here nor there. But what is her involvement in the case? Was she the prosecutor?
No, she was not the prosecutor. She had she assigned different ADAs to the case.
Okay.
But she had a hand in how the actual trial went. I will say that because we talked about a plea deal at one time. The judge, Judge Centerfit, she wanted this to be settled because of the amount of information that was presented during the stand your ground motion. Mm-hmm. So she could hear that there was something wrong with what was going on here with the deposition, the testimony that was given. So she knew that there was something wrong with the case, and she asked the DA office to settle the case outside of court. There wasn't any favorable plea deals offered to Marissa because, like I said, she felt she was in the right. She tried to defend herself, and no matter what they said, she didn't want to kill anyone. Based on the law, she should have been able to stand her ground. She didn't have to retreat. She did try to retreat, but she wasn't able to. Another thing to denote in the alleged victim deposition, he stated he knew she couldn't leave through the garage because the garage didn't work for him when he came home.
Hmm.
So he knew for sure that she wasn't going to be able to leave through the garage. Part of what the judge put in her denial statement, she didn't have any documentation to say the garage didn't work. The only documentation there was the alleged victim saying that the garage didn't work and the defendant saying that the garage didn't work at that time. But there was no other documentation from the landlord to say that the garage didn't work, or there was no repair order to have the garage fixed. These are things that I guess the judge was looking for. So I'm assuming she didn't believe that the garage didn't work.
But again, on reading the law, it says no duty to retreat.
Yes.
I just really find it hard to believe that a woman judge, with the problem of domestic abuse in this country and the amount of public information that's given out on it, and even considering the fact that no one was hurt in this incident, I mean, it's just hard to believe that a female judge would rule the way that this Judge Elizabeth Centerfit ruled. I just find it absurd. And I'm just finding that in these states that have these stand your ground laws, I'm finding that, and I could be incorrect, but just the cases that I have read about, when it comes to black people and stand your ground, they are often not given immunity. And Marissa Alexander is a black woman.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. One of the things that denial was very painful for us to accept, but we had no choice but to move on. So we did. This charge carries a mandatory sentence of 20 years with no option of parole, and that's Florida law, the 1020 life law that we have here in Florida. So the stakes are very high in this case with this particular charge. With this case, Marissa's biggest question was, what was I supposed to do? That is her biggest question. What was I supposed to do? If I wasn't able to leave through the garage, and that's open for debate. You have her saying that she couldn't leave through the garage, and sworn testimony in a deposition from the alleged victim saying that he knew she couldn't leave through the garage either. What was she supposed to do when she was trapped right there in the kitchen?
I mean, but Mr. Alexander, she didn't have to do anything according to stand your ground law. There's no duty to retreat. And, it's just very upsetting that you have the alleged victim admitting that he threatened Miss Alexander's life, threatened her life. There is a documented history of domestic violence. In one instance, she ended up in a hospital. So I just can't, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney or anything like that, but I do have common sense. And so, I just still cannot fathom why Marissa should be facing 20 years in prison with the facts of the case being known as they are. I mean, none of this stuff is in dispute. I mean, you testified that you said to us that he testified that he was going to kill her. Did he not threaten to kill her?
He did threaten her.
And this is part of the record, right?
Yes, it's part of the deposition.
How much do you know about this Judge Elizabeth Centerfit?
I personally don't know very much other than the high-level bit of information I was told by our lawyer.
Okay.
She was a former prosecutor, so she worked in the district attorney office at some point in time. She has a reputation, from what I understand, of siding with the prosecutors. That is another thing that her reputation, based on her rulings, kind of show.
So, in other words, she's not objective. She's not an objective, impartial judge.
I don't know it for sure, but based on what I've been told and based off of the history, that seems to be the case.
And this wasn't a jury trial. This was just a judge.
Right. A motion, those are decided by the judge only. They listen to the testimony from all all witnesses, and then they make a determination based on that information.
I'm a bit confused. So for the 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon with no intent to harm, and then child abuse charges for firing a warning shot and stopping right there, she fired the warning shot into the ceiling, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. I will say that the child abuse was an original charge on the arrest report.
It was later dropped.
Yeah, and that was dropped once it went to the district attorney office. They dropped that charge right away.
Okay. Now, I mean, just the mere act of firing into the ceiling, again, I don't understand these charges. How can you assault somebody with no intent to harm? That's what I don't understand. The child testified that the weapon was not pointed at him, I guess, even though the husband, her husband, testified that he threatened her. I guess he's still maintaining that she did shoot at him.
He later changed his story again
in
when
court?
the trial, during the trial.
Okay.
So when you said that you were confused, there was a stand your ground motion, which is where only the judge make a determination.
Okay.
That was the first thing that we presented, was a stand your ground motion. That way, all of the charges would be dropped. But we lost that particular motion. The next thing was the actual trial for aggravated assault.
Was that by jury or judge?
That's by jury.
Okay.
In Jacksonville, Florida, we have a jury of 8. 2 of those 8 are alternates, but those alternates don't know if they are alternates until the end of trial.
I just, oh man, went to a jury. I tell you, sometimes I don't know what's in the minds of some of these people that sit on these juries. Cause it just seems to me, Mr. Alexander, from everything that you've told me, everything that I've read, that this was a clear case of self-defense. And for her to be facing a mandatory sentence of what did you say? How many years? 20 years?
20 years with no probation.
Wow.
Right. I'm not sure how it is in other states, but juries here, they don't know the number of years. When they're presented a case, they don't know the number of years a defendant is facing. So
in other words, the sentencing part comes afterwards, and that's by the judge, not the jury. The jury doesn't make that determination.
That's correct. But in this case, because it's law, I'm not sure if the judge even have an option, or if the prosecutors have an option to waive that 20-year mandatory.
From my information that I was given, no. They don't have an option, and I will pull that up. This is just very egregious miscarriage of justice. But yeah, the information that I have says that they don't have the latitude to, like you stated, this is the law. So it's sort of like mandatory sentencing. The prosecutor's office is not legally positioned to ask for less than 20 years. So she's facing no less than 20 years according to this information.
What really confuses us as a family, at the very least, there should have been reasonable doubt with all of the information that was given.
Right. I agree. I don't know what the jury was thinking. I've seen some juries do some crazy things, but they let Casey Anthony go, but that's a different case. Definitely, this is a story we're interested in and we'll stay on top of. What is the next move? When is the sentencing hearing? When is that going to occur?
The next move, we have a petition that is going to ask for justice for Marissa. We understand that at this point she was found guilty by a jury, and now we're moving to the sentencing phase. People have asked, why did we wait so long? And I have to admit, and I know her mom would say, we trusted that the judicial system will look at the facts and see that she truly was defending herself. But that didn't happen. So now we are doing what we can to fight for justice on Marissa's behalf.
Is her case being appealed? Is her conviction being appealed?
If we don't have, if we are not granted the option for a retrial, then we will move forward with an appeal.
So that's the next move, is to try to get a retrial?
That is the next move, yes. And on Monday, that is a pre-sentencing hearing, so that motion for a retrial will be heard on that particular day. I'm not sure if the judge will rule on that particular day, or he will just listen to arguments about granting a new trial. What we are organizing is a press conference at the courthouse Wednesday, tomorrow at 12 noon here in Jacksonville. I put that on our blog as well at justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. So we are going to talk openly with media there at the courthouse. We are looking for anyone that lives in Jacksonville or that is able to attend, that lives nearby, to attend the press conference and show your support for Marissa as she seeks justice, because she truly tried to defend herself. Another next step, we started talking with appeal attorneys as well, just to make sure that we find someone that has a good reputation, that is going to lead us to a victory for Marissa.
Let me give out that information for the press conference. Again, the press conference is tomorrow, April the 18th at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Duval County Downtown Courthouse, the Riverside entrance at 330 East Bay Street. Again, that's in Jacksonville, Florida. And she's incarcerated currently, right now.
That's correct. She's been incarcerated for over a year.
Okay. Is there information on the website if people would like to write her? I've heard that in these, it's really important for people who are incarcerated to get letters to keep their spirits up. So is that information available on the site where people can write Marissa and offer her spiritual or otherwise other kinds of support?
I will add that to our blog, with her information, her mailing address, where she is located, so that people can write to her. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and that website again is justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. In closing, Mr. Alexander, and again, we will continue to follow this case and bring you back on as necessary when there's new developments. But in closing, what would you say to our listeners about this case and similar cases of injustice?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Take your time.
Because of the way our case has ended, I'm not even sure if telling the police that you're in fear of your life will make a difference. That part I don't even know for sure. But what I can tell you, people have said that she should have been the first one to call the police. And if that was the only difference maker, that he was able to call the police before she was, then that would be one of the things I would tell listeners. Another thing that I had brought up earlier that Marissa had learned, if you're in an abusive relationship, there is no, let me just kind of start to leave over time. You will need to just leave just cold turkey and not gradually start to move away and try to leave the relationship.
Good advice. Good advice. Well, I want to thank you again, Mr. Alexander, and our thoughts and prayers are with you. And please continue to keep us updated on this case so we can get information out.
All right. Well, I appreciate you for having me on and allowing listeners to learn more about the story. They can view information on justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. We are keeping everyone up to date as much as possible with information that needs to be shared.
And again, that website is justiceformarissa.blogspot.com. Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, this is Russell Campbell, veteran of the Civil Rights Movement, and you're listening to Black Talk Radio, a radio station that reaches out to all the people of the United States that deals with black issues.
And you're listening to Black Talk Radio News with Scotty Reed. That's our program for tonight. Again, want to thank Mr. Lincoln for coming on. Mr. Lincoln Alexander Jr., that is, brain freeze there. But definitely check out this case. Share it with your friends. This is a clear case of injustice. I never did I read or hear about in the case with George Zimmerman. Was he taken before a judge? Did he have a hearing? No. That just makes Trayvon Martin's case just that much more transparent, I would say, to show you how they just let George Zimmerman walk away. But yet here they have this mother, Marissa Alexander, been on lockdown for over a year. So, and all she did was fire a weapon into a ceiling, standing her ground, which might have saved her life.